Welcome in. I'm joined by Matt. Matt is in Atlanta, as you can see. Matt, what has the vibe been just the past 24 hours?
It's pretty exciting. I got here last night, and we're staying at the media hotel across the street from the stadium, and it's pretty crazy over here. The Georgia fans are out in droves. There's a ton of Texas people here too. I've heard the split's about 60-40, so we'll kind of see how it is come game time. But people are excited. This is a huge, huge rematch. Obviously, it's for all the marbles here in the SEC and Texas's first year, so people are pretty excited.
Absolutely. So let's go back to last weekend. What did you see from Texas in that Texas A&M win that had you feeling confident?
It's got to start with the defense. They pitch a shutout against a team like A&M, who's got Marcel Reed, dynamic quarterback. They haven't had a lot of problems putting up points this year overall, especially when Reed came into the fold. So the way they were able to handle adversity, handle that crowd, not bend when they had those two turnovers that kind of let A&M back into the game. I think that's a great sign for today. And it seems like they're kind of hitting their stride at the right time. Obviously, Georgia's a little bit different of an animal than Texas A&M in terms of, the offensive firepower and the explosiveness and the speed and all of those kinds of things. So it'll be a little bit different. And obviously, there's a little bit more pressure in this game just for what it's for. Texas has an opportunity to come in and win an SEC championship in Atlanta in their first year, and nobody else has ever done that technically. So it's going to be pretty exciting, and I think they're going to be able to handle the pressure.
On the other end, both coming off of emotional games against rivals, but Georgia had an 8 overtime game last weekend. Do you think that plays a part in the emotional and physical come down?
I think it definitely could. With Texas, they had that game in control, and they never it was never really in doubt, despite the pick six and the block punt and all that stuff. Texas was firmly in control of that game. They dominated, and Georgia kind of struggled a little bit to put things away, and they let it linger and linger and linger and linger, and they finally came over at the end. But when you play 8 overtimes, even though it's 2 point conversions now, it's when you play 8 overtimes and you're playing very physical football and it's very emotional and it's against a rival, that can play a factor. Um, if it were any other team, I would be concerned a little bit more. But I also think it's something that not a lot of people are talking about either, because it's everything's been about the previous matchup between these two teams, and not a lot of people have talked about how much energy Georgia had to put into that game. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out and play. I think that Kirby Smart's going to have them motivated. I think that he's probably one of the best. I mean, he's the best motivator in the SEC that I can think of. So I think he'll have his guys ready to play, and I think they'll have the energy. They're not strangers to this kind of environment or to adversity. So it's going to be a tough test either way.
So for Texas, is there any update that you've heard about Kelvin Banks yet?
Last we've heard, he's still questionable. He's going to be a game time decision. I think that he's going to give it everything he's got in warmups to try and get ready to go. If they don't have Banks available, they'll go with Trevor Gooseby again. He played very well against Texas A&M. Texas A&M has an extremely good defensive line, one of the best in the SEC, and he played very well in that game. He didn't flinch. So perhaps he can do that again today. We'll have to see if he has to go. But they're doing everything they can to get Banks ready because he's a critical part of the offense.
Absolutely. So that isn't a cause of concern.
I think it's a cause of concern. You definitely want your first round pick NFL left tackle to be going up against Michael Williams in this front, but they're confident in Gooseby. They wouldn't put him out there if they didn't think that he could do the job. So we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. But either way, I think they're going to have sort of a different protection plan this time around as opposed to the first game, and I think that they'll be ready to go.
So there's a lot of comparisons between Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. They're older, they're very vocal leaders for their teams. What do you need to see from Quinn Ewers in order to help get this offense going?
For one thing, I think he needs to minimize the mistakes. last week against A&M, he had those two critical turnovers, and that could have been disastrous. Against Georgia the first time around, he had the turnovers and he had a hard time getting going. Granted, he was just kind of starting to get back from the injury, and he was still trying to get his feet under him. Now he's got his feet under him pretty well now, and he's kind of hitting his stride in the sense of his health and his confidence and those kinds of things. He just needs to minimize the mistakes. Um, I think that he can do that. He has had a tendency in the last few weeks to um, you know pass up some throws, and there's a few examples of him turning down some open receivers and checking the ball down, which against a team like Georgia, you're not going to be able to afford to do. They're too fast and they're too physical and they're too athletic to continuously check down and do things behind the line of scrimmage. Texas tried to do that in the first matchup and it didn't work out very well. So they're going to have a little bit of a different game plan this time around. For Carson Beck, I think it's kind of a similar deal in the sense of he has to take care of the football. He turned the ball over 3 times against Texas last time out. Fortunately for him, Quinn Ewers did the same thing, so it kind of minimized it. I don't think that the Texas defense is going to be in the same kind of position they were last time or constantly fields against this Georgia offense. And they helped Georgia to less than 300 yards total offense last time. I think it was 283 or 248. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they pretty much shut down that Georgia offense despite them scoring 30 points in terms of yardage and things like that. And they did a great job in that game. So, it's for Beck, it's definitely the turnover. Even for Ewers, I think it's continuing to build his confidence and taking I don't want to say take risk, but he needs to be a little bit more aggressive in his downfield throws as well. But either way, it's going to be a heck of a quarterback battle. They're two of the best in the country.
Absolutely. So what are your keys for Texas to walk out of there with a SEC title and for Georgia?
I think it starts with running the football. They did an okay job of running the ball last time against Georgia, but Quintravian Reisner has had a tremendous stretch the last couple of weeks against Kentucky and Texas A&M. If they can get him going, maybe not even to that level, but if they can get him going pretty consistently and he has a good game, I think that's a great start. I think that they need to protect Quinn for sure, and this Georgia defense can really get after it. And I don't know how much Arch you're going to see, but the way that Georgia struggled with Haynes King last week, I think Texas kind of has to look at that and say, we've got somebody who can do that. And maybe who's a little bit more athletic than Haynes King. We can take advantage of that. So I think Arch will be a key to what they're doing. And lastly, I think that defense just has to keep playing like it's been playing. If they can minimize the big plays against Georgia and they can play the way that they've played consistently over the first, really over the entire regular season, they've been the best defense in the country. And if they can continue to do that, I think they'll be in good shape.
All right. Well, lastly, what is your score prediction?
I think it's going to be tight. I've got Texas. I've got Texas 24-21 right now. I don't think it's going to be the same kind of script that we saw last time where there's all these mistakes and all of these on both sides. I think it's going to be a lot more straightforward of a game, and I think it's going to come down to the defense and the running game and the kind of adjustments that both of these teams have made since the first matchup. And, I think that Texas is hitting their stride at the right time. I think that Georgia has kind of struggled in the last couple of weeks. How much that plays into today, we don't know. Kirby Smart has won multiple national championships for a reason. He wins SEC championships for a reason. So certainly not going to be easy, but it's also really hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. So I'm giving Texas the slight edge as of right now, but I don't really feel good about it either.
One last question. Do you think the fact that Georgia has a ton of experience in SEC championship games, do you think that will play a role in today?
I'm sure it will to a degree, but Texas, they won a Big 12 championship last year, so they know what championship games are about. SEC is a little different. Obviously, it's the best conference in America for a reason. You know, Georgia's the best team they're going to face all year, uh, unless they make a deep college football playoff run. So it's hard to say how much of a difference it'll make, but you know, I do think that Georgia does have a slight edge in that department because they've been here before. You know, Carson Beck was here last year, and when they lost to Alabama, he says he never wants to lose in this building again. Then I think his whole team's going to kind of embrace that mentality, so they're going to make it real tough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. And y'all be looking out. Matt's going to
Yep.
have some awesome coverage from the game throughout the day, as he always does. So thank y'all for watching.